Awesome. So Mark, Damon, Christine, Karen, nice to meet you, Karen. But great to see all of you guys again. And I apologize, I'm having some technical difficulties a little bit with my computer, and I don't know, printer issues. So all of a sudden so I'm not going to be looking at myself. I'm just going to be looking at my email, and I have some notes going on there. So I can speak off of that. But really quick, just wanted to introduce myself. My name's Blitz. I'm a CPA with Streamline CPAs. I own the company, and it's basically me and 3 ladies that work with me, and it's fun, exciting, and we're all kind of working from wherever we want to work. So right now, yeah, we're all kind of at home. We do have an office in downtown Fresno that it's a mailing address. We used to meet with clients from time to time, but now it's not really necessary anymore. So as you can see, I work kind of from my guest house, and I think my favorite part of the day is when I get to jump on the phone and put my AirPods in and go for a bike ride and just have conversations with my clients while riding my bike and figuring out, hey, how can we grow? Because there's a lot of small business owners, just like I guess I'll say yourselves, like in terms of the students at the school. You guys are all small business owners, and you guys don't know everything, and you guys need input, and you want to know what's going on in the rest of the community, and what's going on, what opportunities there are for, whether it's financing or market growth, or grants that are available now, how to minimize your tax, how to minimize your taxation, how to how to make sure it captures as much of the revenue that's out there as possible, and to streamline your costs and make sure that you understand your books, because if you don't understand your books, then it's going to be tough to grow your business. So a couple more things about me. I'm originally from Los Angeles. I married the one Jewish girl from Fresno, so that's how I got up here. I moved up here about 15 years ago, and it's a great place to live. It's an easy place to live. Love getting outdoors. Big marathoner. Love to get into the mountains and go hiking, and love to travel. Looking forward to a Hawaii trip this summer and getting off to Yosemite, and what else do we have? Napa Valley. So we have quite a bit. Maybe I'll visit my family from time to time in Los Angeles, but that's kind of the back burner thing. I have 3 kids. I have a 9-year-old at Manchester Elementary, a 6-year-old at Malik, and a 2.5-year-old who's still in preschool. Can't wait to get that public education. It's a little cheaper than preschool. So I run this practice full time, and it keeps me busy, really busy, too busy, where people are texting me all the time, emailing me all the time, calling me all the time. I'm sure after this meeting, I'll have 10 or so emails that I'll have to respond to, but that just means that you're important, and that you're wanted. So that's exciting, except for the fact that I probably should be hiring more staff to help out with a lot of these responses, because it's a bit overwhelming. But what is a CPA, right? So certified public accountant. You oftentimes hear about them during tax season, right? We help people prepare their taxes. But I like to think that we're more than that. You'll also hear of CPAs in regards to when companies need to be audited, or companies need financial statements, when companies need reporting to their banks. They're oftentimes going to their CPA to assist them with what's called GAAP financial statements, because that's the requirement, and that's oftentimes what the bank is looking for in order to make sure to extend and continue financing. Financial statements and tax returns, right? Those are 2 big things. But the way that I work is, I like to think that a CPA is more of a profit center than a cost center. So what that means is, I want my clients to expect to come to me. And when they come to me, they can earn more money, right? So they pay me my fee, and then they're able to generate, based off the information that I'm able to provide them, they're able to make more money off of that, right? I don't just want to be able to be, hey, you need an annual tax return, you got to get that done, let's just get it done, right? Like that's not exciting. Because all of a sudden the client's going to be like, well, I don't want to pay much for this. I don't want to pay for that return, right? It's almost like a tax on a business. So I do work with individuals and businesses. Typically what happens is I'll work with the business, and then the business owner is like, hey, I need to wrap this down into my individual return, because, whether it's a Schedule C, an S Corp, or a partnership, oftentimes, the income just passes directly through to them individually. In addition, corporations, right? So if you guys think about, hey, what kind of entity structure are we going to be, based on whatever type of business that you guys are going to run, what's the most efficient tax structure to minimize liability, to minimize taxation, to get the best financing for your business? What is it that your business needs? And then based on what that is, then you can determine what kind of entity that you will need at that point, right? So again, that just goes into the whole business process, business planning process, and you just want to make sure that you have the insight before you move forward. So a CPA is going to come in and help you out with that type of planning, but a CPA can also help with, hey, end of the year happens, let's figure out what your tax liability is going to look like. Okay, so you made a bunch of money this year. We don't want to pay tax on that. What do we do? Right? I know a lot of you guys might have jobs at various places around town, and you guys get W-2, right? So every year, at the end of the year, you take your W-2, you file that tax return, you get some kind of refund. Well, for small businesses and big businesses, they need to file a return based on their actual activity, right? Their income that they generated, the books that were created throughout the year, the invoices that were sent out, less the cost that they spent in order to generate that income. And that's not easy, right? That's not a simple process, and most people, or not most people, but a lot of small businesses just don't know how to manage that process because they've never had to deal with it before. So oftentimes you'll just say, like, if you get sick, you'll go to the doctor. If you have a tax issue, you'll go to a CPA. You'll talk to them. You'll get the best plan, right? And the key here is CPAs should help you plan. There's value in planning. There's value in developing a strategy. And that's what I like to focus on is, hey, if we don't know what we're going to be doing or what our end goal is, how do we make any decision along the way? So we just need to make sure that we're able to develop those decision making. That kind of leads me into, why is accounting important? Accounting is important for a couple of reasons. So as I mentioned, there's obviously tax issues, there's financial statement issues that come up. But think about this in your small business, right? So you guys are selling $100 of product a day, right? Where's that $100 going? Is it just going into Joe's pocket? Is it going into Jill's pocket? Is it going, where is that money going? And that's really important, because if you can't understand where the money is going, then you can't understand how profitable, or more than likely how unprofitable your business is going, right? So then all of a sudden, are you putting money into a sinking ship? Right? So accounting can help you get that understanding, get you that basis for, okay, we make $100 a day. It costs us 25% to make that product, right? So $25 straight out the door to make the product. It costs us another $25 in labor, right? Got to pay Jack to sit there and sell the product. He costs $25 a day. Got to pay him. Right? That's another $25 out the window. Gotta spend some money, maybe $10 on Facebook ads, marketing. There you go. That's another $10 out the window. At the end of the day, we're only left off with $40. But maybe, hey, maybe there's a bunch of other expenditures that I left off. Well, what about those? If we're not taking into consideration all those expenditures, all that activity, we're not understanding how profitable it is, how profitable we actually are. So I like to look at accounting from that aspect of just the granular basic of understanding how your finances work. I'll give you a quick example. I have a client, he sells boba, boba tea. I don't know, I'm assuming you guys like boba tea. And he does it up in like the Portland, Washington, Portland, Seattle area. So when I met this guy, he had no books. He gave me something and I'm like, this is just a mess. I'm going to come up with something the best that I could. Right. So I gave him financials. I'm like, here's your balance sheet. Here's your profit and loss. This is what's going on. He straight out said to me, nope, you're lying. You're wrong. Or not, you're lying. He's like, you're wrong. I'm like, okay. Like, I mean, I went through the information. This is what I saw. Like, I think I'm right. Everything is reconciled. We're good to go. Nope, you're wrong, Adam. I'm like, all right, let me go back, see what's going on, see what I'm missing. So I went back and I saw what ended up happening with this guy is he knew he didn't need a set of books, right? The books just confirmed what he already knew. Him as a business owner is such an incredibly talented business owner that he knows, right? And you guys as business owners need to know this, because if you don't know this, nothing matters, right? You guys are just, it doesn't matter. You need to know how of every dollar that you sell, what's left over, right? And then what comes in between. You need to know what your cost of that product is. You need to know what your rent is. You need to know what your labor cost is. You need to know that you have various insurance, various additional costs that come up when you make additional sales, right? So just going through the financial statements with him, he's like, he could get you immediately there without having to go through all the details. He could say, based on $1 million of sales, I know that I'm gonna have $100,000 left on the dot within, a couple $100. He was that efficient at knowing his numbers. And I would challenge you guys to know that. And the way that you guys could easily practice this, it's an easy way to practice it. So each one of you guys come from a household, right? And each one of those households has a budget, right? And maybe you guys aren't involved in your parents' budget, and that doesn't need to be the issue. But maybe you guys get a allowance, right? If you just track that allowance every month, right? So every month I get $50, right? I get $50, or I have a job and I make $50 every month, right? What do I do with that $50? Where does it go, right? Track it for a month, track it for 2 months, just do it month by month, see where it goes. See, hey, am I spending things in the right places? Be your own CFO, be your own chief financial officer, where, you're able to determine, hey, this is where money went. Am I happy about where I'm spending money? Do I want to invest in other places? Would I prefer that, I buy a different mix of products? How could I stretch this money further? There's so many different questions that you can come up with just by looking at your own financial statements. And your financial statements can be as simple or difficult as you want them to be. So I'd really challenge you guys to just look at your own internal personal budget, because by doing that will help you extend that out to any business that you begin in the future, or any business that you're currently working on, right? How can we do this process cheaper, faster, and sell more of that product? One thing that I've seen with a lot of the small businesses that I've worked with over at Patiño is they oftentimes the participants in the businesses don't oftentimes understand the value of the work that they're providing. So what I mean by that is during the semester, you guys work 100 hours, right? 100 hours on this project to get your business up and running. Okay. That 100 hours, right? A lot of that is school time, but let's just assume that 100% of that time is outside of school time, right? So you're spending your free time that you can do anything that you want on your business, right? 100 hours. Your alternative is you could go get a job and work 100 hours at, let's just call it minimum wage, right? $12 an hour times 100, right? That's 1,200 bucks. Okay. I expect at the minimum that if at the end of those 100 hours that you've worked, that you've taken your time to work on that small business, your business better be worth more than $1,200, because nobody's paying you to work on that small business. It's your time, you're focusing on it. But, oftentimes what I see from the students is, oh, this business hasn't increased in value much over the last, over the last semester, but I've spent 100 hours doing so. And when I hear that, I'm crushed a bit because you're not valuing the work that you do. Because I would almost argue with you that $1,200 so your 100 hours should almost be worth 10 times that $12 per hour that you could have made. And the reason why I say that is because there's no guaranteed income that's going to come from that work that you're doing, right? Every hour that you're working on that business should be focused on, how can I grow this business? How can I make it more valuable? How can I ensure that this business is going to have the wherewithal to withstand without me? It's important because in order to grow a business, you need to hire a team. Okay. If you're not able to pay for employees, you're going to get burned out, right? You are going to be, you're going to be the accountant, you're going to be the sales department, you're going to be the human resource department, you're going to be every department in that business that business needs, you are it. Okay. And you need to figure out, okay, how can I grow? How can I, and then offshoot different parts of this business and let other people take over those roles. I think that that's really important because I oftentimes see with small businesses that people are just working 80, 90 hours a week just to get by, right? They're oftentimes just being like, well, there's nobody else to do it. Well, there is somebody else. You're just not willing to hire that person, right? You're not willing to invest that money. And that's a tough decision, right? Because we all have budgets. And when you're in a small business, oftentimes 100% of that budget, the more that you could take home, the greater for you and your family. But the return on that is often that, hey, life kind of sucks for that business owner who's just overworked, overtired, can't enjoy his family because there's just no time to do so, even though they're doing well. Couple things. And please, Damon, please tell me if I know I'm talking a lot here. So if anybody wants to pop in with a question, I'm happy to answer it as we go.
No, you're good so far. You are the guest speaker, so you should be speaking. You're doing good, sir.
Right.
I'm putting, as you're speaking, I'm putting things in the chat as well. So
great. I'm not looking at it. Okay.
I'm timing in on some resources. I hope everyone takes you up on that $50 track your money challenge. So I hope let's do a track your money challenge and resources. So as you're speaking, I'm throwing out things that the students are looking for in the chat.
Awesome. And I apologize. I wasn't looking at the chat. I've got the video over here and I've got my email over here that I'm looking at some notes on.
No worries.
Okay. Cash flow and its role in small business. Okay, guys. Who is always frustrated that their bank account looks empty? my wife, geez, you should see how much she takes out. It's a joke. Anyways, cash flow is always a problem. It's every small business's problem. You know, I know in talking to some of these small businesses I've worked with at Patiño, you guys don't have the capital to hire people out, right? That's why you guys are doing the work yourselves, right? How are you ever going to get to that point where you guys have enough cash flow, pay wages, pay, you know, for product, pay for overhead, pay for all that additional, all those items that you need just in order to run that small business? That is a huge problem for every single business. I will tell you that COVID and the way that the government has processed, you know, PPP loans, EIDL loans has been a huge boost to a lot of these cash-strapped companies. You may or may not notice that a lot of businesses are sitting on a lot of cash right now just because of a lot of that easy capital that has come to the market over the last year. But cash flow prior to COVID, I worked with a lot of small businesses who were always like, I gotta pay this bill. When's the next receivable coming in, right? When's that next sale happening so I can just turn around and pay that next bill? And it was a constant struggle just to go from, hey, I've got bills coming in, I got bills coming out. Each one of your families, I'm assuming, has this issue as well. Hey, we get paid on the 15th or the 30th, bills get paid on the 1st or the 2nd, right? It's just goes from one pocket to the next very, very quickly. And it's frustrating for a lot of individuals, a lot of small businesses. And the question is how do you manage that stress? Because if, let's say I hire 10 people, all right, 10 people at $5,000 a month, that's 50 grand a month. My math, right? 5, what did I say? 10 people times 5,000. Yep, right, 50 grand a month that I need to come up with just to hit payroll. Where's that money coming from, guys? Right? I'm not sitting on a cash tree. I wish I was, but that's not happening. I need to be selling enough product. I need to be selling enough services to be bringing in 50K plus, right? I gotta be bringing in, you know, another 10,000 for rent, another, you know, $5,000 for subscriptions, another, you know, $5,000 for insurance, another $1,000 for my car payment, another, you know, everybody needs snacks, so 2,500 for snacks, right? I'm all of a sudden up at 73,500. Gotta have your orange calculator with you. 73K 1 month. I better be selling some product, right? I better be expecting that money's coming in and know when that money's coming in, right? What happens if the money doesn't come in? I still gotta pay those people. Do I just go BK? Do I go bankrupt? I mean, that's not an option. What do I do? I mean, I know that payroll is going to get run in 3 days and I'm not sitting on $50,000. What, you know, my hands are getting sweaty just thinking about that. What do we do? These are real world problems that are happening every day. So what happens in this situation? First of all, you call your CPA. Nah, I'd like to think that happens, but a lot of people just stress out. But when they stress out, oftentimes they don't make the best business decision, right? So as an advisor, what can we do to make sure we hit those cash flow needs, right? So planning, right? I mentioned it before. We got a plan, right? So I'd say the first thing is we need alternative resources than just our sales, right? So sales is one area of cash flow, but let's say I'm in an industry that I don't get paid, you know, I'm a farmer, right? I get paid twice a year, right? I get paid twice a year. And it's coming down to the end of the year. I'm running out of cash flow. What do I do? You know, oftentimes I'll advise my clients, hey, let's make sure we have lines of credit set up, right? And what a line of credit is you go to the bank and you obviously talk to them, have a discussion about your business, explain to them what you're going to be utilizing this capital for, and how it's going to be utilized, when it's going to be utilized, what exactly we're utilizing it on, crops, wages, just living expenditures for a couple months, all those needs. And then, hey, how are we going to pay this back? Right. And we're going to pay it back when we get our money, right? When we get our money from when we sell our crops, right? So you got to understand how that cash flow is working and whether or not you're meeting budgets because let's say on this farming aspect, if we're only getting paid in 6 months and I'm spending a lot today, even though I'm going to have a lot more of expenses to pay in the next 2 months, well, that all of a sudden becomes a problem because I might max out my line of credit. Right? The bank isn't just going to say, hey, you have free reign, go take whatever it is that you want. They're going to set a maximum. They're going to say you could borrow up to X amount, right? And you know what? When they ask to borrow, or when you ask to borrow, they're going to charge interest on that. That's another cost, right? So now I don't just pay them back the $1 million that I borrowed. I have to pay them $1.1 million back. There's a cost to everything, right? So how can we minimize that cost of money as much as possible? What opportunities are there? How can we, do we get other investors to come into the business to just provide the seed capital like you guys are kind of working on, right? Maybe it's investors that, hey, if we need that seed capital and the only way to do it is to sell 50% of our business at this time, maybe that's the best option. Maybe that is the right route. Maybe that is the only way that our business is going to be able to make it to that next check mark, right? Because your business, if you can't make it to the next check mark, is technically worth zero. So if you can't figure out a way to get to that next mark, that next place, what are you going to do? I mean, you better go get a job because your family has rent to pay, mortgage to pay, car insurance, kids to feed. Something has to happen. Changes need to get made. So cash flow is very important. And the stress of that, me being a parent of 3, it's brutal, right? Hey, if I'm not getting paid, my wife is going to question me really quickly. That's a lot of pressure, especially as you guys grow up, as you guys develop your own businesses, as you guys build these businesses. You got to understand, okay, if this was in the real world, how are we going to get the funding to pay ourselves? Is there enough sales to fund ourselves at the very minimum to pay ourselves? Or do we need outside financing to be able to pay ourselves?
I have a quick question, Adam, because you made me think of something. So when our kids first start, their business, and say they're making a product and they need to buy stuff to make that product, but they don't have any money.
Yep.
Is investment really their only option to be able to buy the stuff that they need in order to even just get started?
So your best investor is mom and dad. They are awesome, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. I see 35, 40, 50-year-olds going to mom and dad and saying, hey, I have this great idea. Can you fund me? Right? So I wouldn't look at that as a negative. I would just say, hey, if your family has the resources to pay for that, fantastic. The alternative, Christine, figure out a different way. How else are you going to do it? Nobody's doing it for you, right? So if you don't have the funds, okay, doesn't mean it can't get done. It's just another roadblock. I mean, I think we all have those at some point in our life, and you got to take that next step, figure out the next route forward, and keep going on. And Kerwin, yeah, you're right. I mean, payroll keeps going on. Like
we
stop.
deal with that all the time. Every month we deal with that. So Actually, every 2 weeks.
Right? Every 2 weeks.
Yes.
Payroll is expensive. Can I tell you the worst part about payroll? The worst part about payroll is you don't get credit card points for payroll. Right? So I'm all in. I love to spend money. I love to buy, hey, new keyboard, new phone. Let's buy it, right? But for those things, I get credit card points. For payroll, you gotta pay cash, right? They're not gonna take credit. So
I have one thing to add real quick.
yeah.
So if you have a staff, you have to pay them. If you take vacation, you're not working. They're probably not working unless you have a situation where they can work. And so you have to pay them no matter what, when you're working or not, if you have a staff.
You gotta pay them oftentimes in order to get a good employee. You need to pay them when they take vacation.
Yes.
Right? They need their employment benefits, right? You gotta pay for their health insurance. You gotta cover their sick time, retirement benefits, life insurance. You gotta reimburse them for the mileage that they drove. You gotta pay for their telephone. Adds up.
And one more thing. And while you're doing all of that, you should be preparing for your retirement. So not only do you have to make enough money to be profitable, you have to put money away. So it's something else.
The only caveat there is, I will tell you this. Oftentimes small business owners will rely on their business as their retirement, right? They will say, okay, yes. Right? And I spoke about this earlier. You got to think about the time that you're investing in your business. That time is more valuable than the hourly wage that you would take. At the end of the day, that business better be worth a lot of money based on the time that you spent, cultivated, invested into that business, that somebody else is then going to want to come by and purchase it from you. And then you could take that money and throw it into, use it as your nest egg. Yes. Right? Because I will tell you that you do not want to be in a business where at the end of the day, there's A, nothing there for you, right? You can't sell anything. And B, where you just have nothing left, where you spent every dollar, and you basically have to die working in that business. Because if you're dying in that business, then did you really create something, or did you just create a job for yourself? So
yeah, Quick Labs is working on some of that planning this summer. So I'll let you finish, and I have a series of questions too.
Okay, what else do I got? David, let's hear your question.
Okay, so I kind of have a small series. I don't want us to get away from the fact that this thing and the guest speaker series, and you're here to really speak to students who are starting a business. And I like that you're giving them the advice of the value for the hours that they're going to be putting in to start these businesses. Yep. And it should be more than and the value should be more than what you'd make working somewhere else.
Yep.
And I think you touched on students. You want to go as long as you can with the owners running the business as long as possible. It gives you the opportunity to learn every aspect of the business. So that way, when you bring someone on, you know how it should be done, and you could speak to them, employees, on how things should be done the way your team would like it to be done. So, one part is, like Adam is saying, reach out to family members and friends if you need money and funding. A lot of students here like to have bake sales to raise money for their business. But working the business as long as you possibly can to learn every aspect about it. So when you're ready to bring people on, you know exactly what you're looking for. And that's typically just kind of how it works in the beginning. You're the staff and everything else. With that being said, thinking of these teenagers who are starting these businesses, these teenagers are also a team that have to share everything equally. How should they start with looking for a CPA, knowing that they don't have any employees? That's kind of like out of the question in the beginning, but they are the employees, they are the founders. Money's starting to come in and they need to track it and manage it. How do they start with finding an accountant?
Yeah, I'd say it's probably the way that they do everything else these days is going to YouTube.
You recommend they go to YouTube to find an accountant?
No, I mean, to figure out how to go about doing something, right? How do I respond to this?
Well, while you're thinking of that, I am going to say, students, Adam may be your local resource for questions.
Yeah.
Until you get there.
Obviously, right. I mean, obviously I could take questions, right? I could take questions all day long. But I think that it's really important to become self-sufficient in whatever it is that you're doing. And what I mean by that is, if you don't know, you need to at least take a stab as to what it is that you don't know, right? Because the thing that I hate, the thing that bothers me the most is when you come to me and you say to me, hey, how do I do this? And I'm like, did you try? Right? What was the effort level that you took? What was the minimum level, right? And I'm talking about when you're right off the ground, right? You know that you need accounting. Okay, well, what is accounting? Like, do I call a CPA and say, hey, what is it that you do? Like, that feels a little bit uncomfortable, because I would say back to you, tell me, have you sold anything yet? And what is it? I can't do anything for you, right? If you are not going to sell anything, if you're not going to, help build your business, I can't help build your business, right? I can help you once you start getting someplace, right? Once you kind of get to a point where, hey, I think this is growing too fast. I need to get some management and structure involved. At that point, I can help you out, and assuming that you've taken a couple steps to say, hey, this is what's going on. But at the very least, I'm just going to say, hey, go onto Excel, track your activity. And that is the very minimum that you need to do before you call a CPA. Right.
Okay, that's where I was going to kind of get to.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I know that, you can find a lot of things on YouTube, but I think that you got to get to a place where you understand your business before you start asking for outside resources.
Okay, well, so I'm going to ask you for an outside resource now. So again, you gave one already.
Okay.
I'm sure you probably don't need an accountant until you're making a certain amount of money. So let's just say these students are making $5,000 a month. Okay. And you just told them track your expenses in an Excel spreadsheet or a Google sheet, because it does numbers. Yep. Is there any other software that they could use to kind of track their income and expenses that you could recommend?
Yeah, I mean, there's QuickBooks Online. There's a system called Xero. There's a bunch of accounting systems that are all online. Some of them that are free that you can utilize to just easily track your income and easily track your expenses. You're going to want to make sure that you send out invoices, provide receipts to customers, have that data support for the transactions the purchases that you have. So whether it's Xero, QuickBooks Online, I'm just trying to think of some other ones.
I think those are some good ones. I mean, especially they can start off with a spreadsheet, because their revenue is going to be very, very small in the beginning, and maybe there's even like a Google sheet or
and there are templates.
Yeah.
Right. There are templates. If you go into Google Sheets, you can find an accounting template to help you get started, just tracking your income and expenses. And it doesn't have to be all that technical.
And then we have a question from Sarah.
Hello. So my mom also works with like taxes and accounting, and so like interesting and familiar to me. But one of the questions I had was more like, like how difficult is it to like manage everything, but like not everything? So you talked about not like overwhelming yourself, and you talked about not taking on all the responsibilities, but how do you stop yourself from being overwhelmed within your own like sector?
Can you give me that one more time? Give me that question one more time.
Yeah,
How do you
so
not get overwhelmed within your own sector?
so like you talked about not overwhelming yourself with like multiple parts of the business.
Yeah.
So you're like specific to accounting. How do you not get overwhelmed with all of those numbers?
Are you talking about me personally or just in general?
Either or.
I think it's something that comes natural, or, you know, I think just, hey, over the last 15 years, I've been able to engage myself in a bunch of small businesses and understand exactly what's going on and what the needs are and how things work generally within the small business environment. I would say as a small business owner, as a small business owner, if it's overwhelming you, you need support, right? You need to find that partner who's gonna manage it for you. You need to find that teammate who's gonna manage it for you, or you need to outsource it.
Can I add something to that once you're done?
Yeah. You want to go, Kerwin?
It's overwhelming. I mean, it's unbelievably overwhelming, and it sucks, but you got to get it done.
Yeah.
It's, you know, you don't know how to do something, you got to find out. YouTube's a great place to go to find out stuff. You know, with accounting, I'll use us as an example. We are probably the best example of what not to do. We try to do everything ourselves, and then you get to the point where, well, in order to grow the business, I can't be an accountant, I can't be a keeper, definitely can't be an accountant, and there's the stuff that we don't know and we're not good at. We don't have a choice but to find someone to do those things. But, you know, in the beginning, it is overwhelming, and it's a test.
Yeah.
There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's just going to be, it's just how it is. I mean, you know, I think having an MBA would definitely be helpful. Studying entrepreneurship is definitely helpful because you kind of know what you're getting into. You kind of you're developing some of those skills before you even start your business or while you're doing your business. But, you know, my training is in software development. I'm a software developer, but I do all these business things just because, I mean, I have a background in some of those things. I come from an entrepreneurial family, but it's just every day of my life, that's how it is. And I don't quit. I don't give up.
Yeah.
You know, I want my partner and I and my team to win. And it's like, no matter what, and no matter how hard or no matter how little sleep I get, we have to do what we have to do.
Yeah, Kerwin's exactly right. Like, when you start a business, you don't know what you don't know. And you're going to run into a challenge after a challenge after a challenge. And you can either just quit and just say, no, I'm going to go get a job that I have this narrow focus, or you can figure it out. And that's a personal choice. And I think for me, you know, it's more fun trying to figure everything out and getting the support that I need, you know, from, you know, resources that I have, or, you know, wherever it is that I need to get that resource from, I'm going to go find it. So.
I want to add one more thing. I'm sorry. This is your thing. But it's like the most thrilling thing in the world is to come up with, I mean, if you look around your room, that stuff didn't always exist. Somebody invented all of it. Everything you look at, everything you see, somebody came up with that. And so for me, I have an engineering background. And so I love to solve problems. So I get in and I'm always looking for problems to solve. It's the first time Mr. Thomas and myself came up with a proposal and pitched a website and they paid us to do it. It was the most thrilling, most amazing thing ever.
Uh-huh.
And then you want more of that. So it's like, yeah, some of these things suck, you know, trying to make payroll, making sure there's money there, making sure everybody gets paid, you know, trying to fill up the pipeline so the customers are coming, making sure the customers are happy. You know, it's a lot of work and a lot of effort. So it's crazy, but it's fun. I love it. I was telling one of my classes yesterday, I'm unemployable. I just can't work. It's just how I am. So thrill.
I'm right there with you, Kerwin. Right. I mean, there's so many different aspects of it that it just becomes part of who you are.
Yeah.
You figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And guess what? Some clients don't work for you. That's
Yes.
okay. Like some places that you go like aren't gonna work out. But you're gonna find the places that do work for you and the systems that do work for you. And you just need to figure out what works and what doesn't. And the faster that you can do that, the faster it is that you're discarding things that don't really matter in life. Because Sarah, I mean, you're what, 16 years old or so?
Yeah.
Okay, right. So things are relatively simple, easy. You go to high school, you got your friends in your community. Well, all of a sudden you're gonna go to college, and okay, now you're gonna have your college friends and your high school friends. Okay, then you're gonna go get a job, then you're gonna have new friends and new opportunities and new places to go. And there's just gonna be this overwhelming crush of feeling of responsibility. And at some point, you're gonna figure out, hey, I can't respond to everything. I'm gonna focus on what is actually important and what makes Sarah go. And that's the way you're gonna roll.
Yeah, I think in the beginning, it can be overwhelming. It's just the honest truth, like they're both saying, but it won't be as overwhelming in the beginning because you're going to start off small, and as you grow, you're going to learn little by little over time. So it won't be as overwhelming as you think because you're not going to start out the gate big. You're going to start out tiny, and then as you start to learn more and grow, it won't be as overwhelming as you think. And when it gets to that point, Mr. Blitz is exactly right. You bring on someone that can help with the workload. It's that simple, but it can be overwhelming at some point. And when you get there, you get help. Thank you for that question.
I brought up my client who's the boba guy up in Seattle. And so I was talking to him recently. We were putting together an application for something called the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. Lots of money for lots of restaurants. Anyways, and on the application, he's about the same age as me. And on the application, it said, what year did you start doing business, right? And so I was asking him about this, and he's like, oh yeah, June 2002. And so I stepped back for a second. I'm like, June 2002, you were like 19, right? So at 19 years old, this guy, right, was going to farmers markets, setting up his boba shop, selling his boba. He was doing it all himself, making his boba, finding the suppliers for his boba. Now the guy, 20 years later, he has 8 stores at malls across the Northwest and, brings in about $6 million a year. Doesn't happen overnight, but what I'm telling you is, Sarah, you're 3 years off of how old this guy was when he started. So, that he's not the normal, right? Like that's the very special, but just because you're 16 doesn't mean that you can't start selling lots of whatever it is that you want to sell. Age is just a number. You can, if you find a passion and a project that you want to focus on, you can go do it. And you're going to start off small, and you're going to, maybe be doing some Excel spreadsheets at the beginning. And then over time, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, all of a sudden you're like, no, I need some professional support here. At that point, you're probably going to have the funding. You're just going to realize that's the cost of doing business, and you're going to be able to pay for those services.
And one more thing. So when you start this journey, and it is a journey, you realize that you're capable of way more than you know, number one. Number two, you're asking all the right questions right now. You obviously have the capacity to understand it. So I'm not really worried about you. Sometimes when it's you, it's like, I don't really understand or know that much. You're asking the right questions. And when you can ask the right questions, you can find the answer. So that's it.
Okay. Thanks. And we usually kind of start to wind things down around 2:30. So it's usually like an hour. And I want to make sure you're hitting any of your bullet points in some of the time that we have.
No, I hit generally everything that I wanted to hit. So this was a lot of fun, and I appreciate you guys having me on. Wish we could do this in person because I don't know. It's always a little bit more fun when I can be there and see the kids and whatnot. But I'm glad that we're able to still do it in this environment.
Really do appreciate your time as well. Any last minute Q&As from any students here? And I know there's some people I have to scroll over to see. Any last minute questions about accounting and numbers or any of that stuff? Like how much does a CPA cost? The difference between a CPA and a bookkeeper? Do you do accounting? Do you do accounting and handle people's cryptocurrencies? I mean, does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I would say I like to tell my clients that I charge as much as you're willing to pay for my services. I think that's an honest question because, hey, I have limited amounts of time to do what I do. And so I got to make sure that I maximize that as much as possible.
I like that.
Understood.
You got to maximize your earning potential.
Yeah. And so, if you're only willing to pay me $20 an hour, I'm probably going to say, see ya. But hey, push up to 200, 300 an hour. Sure. I'll talk to you. Karen, did you want to ask your question? Or did you want to ask it offline?
Sorry, I'm used to finding stuff in Teams, and when I got to find buttons in Zoom, I'm like, where is it again? It's actually a side question not related to this, so we can, if you want to wait till everybody's done, and I can just ask you.
Sure.
I think we're all done here. I think I would like for everybody to unmute your mics and then give Mr. Blitz a round of applause and a thank you for coming. So if everyone could unmute your mics.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you very, very, very much.
Awesome.